Hello and welcome back to another episode of That Podcast. My name is Ryan Janke, and as always, I am joined by Pastor DJ Lura, Dana Mashevsky, and Sarah DeYoung.
Yay! Nothing.
Ooh.
Hey, that's better.
Not as much of a pause.
There's no peanut gallery today. So.
That's true.
I forgot that I'm sitting here and it's my job to hit the button.
Yeah.
Yep.
You know, it's funny. Before we got started, Ryan looks at Sarah and says, "Hit it!" And Sarah's like, "No, I'm going to press it." And I'm like, got me thinking like, you don't pull it, you squeeze it. Just squeeze it. Squeeze the trigger. Don't pull it.
What's that from?
That's basic gun safety.
It's 101.
Shows how much I know.
It's 101, Dana.
Listen,
I called you Dana.
I've said it once.
Wait a minute.
I've said it once.
Late.
I've said it before.
Man,
if I had
it's
hunt
late.
for my food, I would have a really hard time because I don't know where tacos live. So I work with what I can.
Truth.
And
So
You're having a
I'm
rough time,
fortunate.
buddy.
I'm struggling. Maybe we do need to do this a little more often.
it's a little
You've
rusty.
been gone for 2 weeks and you can't tell me and Sarah apart. We look
Yeah.
nothing alike.
Yep.
I was looking straight ahead.
In the earlier episode, he couldn't get out any of the websites.
That's true.
In my brother Ryan's defense, you were just sitting over there.
True.
I mean, yes, but
You moved too fast for him. You threw him off.
Thank you.
And this
Yes.
is why we call him a boomer.
Oh, that is false. Wrong.
Yes. Fact check false.
Yeah. If anybody out there knows
news.
of a
Wrong.
good customizable mini sound machine?
I think we can, like those
Little red
buttons.
sound machine.
I
Yeah,
think
you
we can
can.
get one of those.
You can.
Just
Then
get
cord
you a
'em.
little 6-button one
Yeah.
and
Well, all you need is either an iPad or just a Apple like a MacBook and connect it to that, and you can put whatever you want. There's like a
I
whole
want to
bank.
get you your own so then you can travel with.
Oh.
I was thinking,
You can
or
have
do
your own
we
little sound.
do we just get him a gopher grabber and he can reach over and press the buttons
I
he
am
wants?
surprised there's not an app for that.
Seriously, there probably is.
Download an app and you can load up different
Customize.
customized sounds to it and play it whenever you
Probably.
want.
That's $1 billion idea.
Well, trademark copyright DJ Lura.
Don't release this episode until we've
Until
got-
after we've
Yep, till
developed
once
our
it's
app.
developed. Or at least the patents are signed.
I kind of already have that with my phone because I've got a few things at the ready.
Yeah. I have the one that
Except
I go
for
to.
when you can't find them and you're like, hold on.
This
Hold
is
on.
an ad.
That's kind of
This
frustrating.
isn't it.
So Emma was funny tonight. I don't know if you
Yeah,
were,
she was.
If you were there, DJ, when this happened, but I wanted to show her something on my phone and I couldn't find it. And she said, maybe you should just say it. And I said, no, I can't because it won't do it justice. Why don't you try?
I was.
That's funny. Why don't you just try?
She was sick of waiting, evidently.
In the most way possible.
It was hilarious. Yeah. So, all right. So what do you, what's going on? What's the haps? You've got, do you care to discuss your new adventure gig?
Sure. I couldn't let Ryan have all the fun and excitement, so I am also. I've started. By the time this goes out, I will have started my new job gig, whatever Ryan wants to call it.
Adventure gig.
Will be at Nexus Path Family Healing in
Cool.
Fargo, so no more driving in the winter. And the amount of people that
great.
I worked with at Altru that said, "Man, you're not gonna have to drive up in the winter." I said, "Yeah, it's gonna be nice."
Wow.
yeah, so I'll be.
That's not the button I wanted.
That's okay. Yeah, I'll be the-
Congratulations.
Thank you. I'll be the marketing manager there, and I'll definitely miss my team, but kind of similar to here, I just refuse to leave here, and they still let me come back and podcast, so I'll do the same there. I'll just go
good.
back and hang out with people.
So was that part of your like negotiations for your contract? Is you cut in a corner to say like all rights and properties and phrases on that podcast is mine to use as I see fit? And
Yeah. Yep. Just make sure that's
any
fine print at the
any
bottom.
swag or merch that I want to put out, you have no say over that.
Yep.
Swirch.
Don't do that.
So now being back in the Fargo Moorhead area, I mean that's got to be a much better commute,
Yes. And a little bit more balance of getting to go into the office if I want to, and also getting to be from home when I want to and not have to drive an hour to get there.
Nice.
You know, before being in Fargo, it was not uncommon to drive for me a half hour, 45 minutes to get anywhere. Like even
Gross.
just the grocery store. It's just what you did. I've lived here a
Gross.
couple years now, and I'm like, if I have to drive more than 10 minutes, I'm ready to pull my hair out. And then when gas goes up,
Yeah.
so I can't imagine what it was like driving all the way to Grand Forks
Well,
like every day.
My roommates and I like to make the joke. We have a friend who lives in near Davies, the way south end of Fargo, and we live in Moorhead, and we always make the joke of, oh man, if we're gonna go over there, we gotta pack a sandwich. That's at least a 45-minute commute. In actuality, it's like 25, but
Right.
Fargo Moorhead has the nice part of it takes 15 minutes to get anywhere.
Yeah.
So
That is
FMSC is doing the junkyard.
Oh, yep.
It'll
you
be
thought the
this
same
Saturday.
thing.
And I was like, I gotta go all the way to junkyard.
I gotta cross the river.
I have to get on the interstate to go someplace.
So this is funny. When I was in high school, there was one of our friends lived in Frontier, and we would go
when you were in high school?
in high school. So yeah, 95, 96.
Yeah.
What, we all want to go hang out on Friday or Saturday? We got to drive all the way down to Frontier to go pick her up. Now I live south of Frontier.
Frontier has been submerged
Yeah.
by the city of
However,
Fargo.
if you're in the Fargo Moorhead area, it is funny to see that they refuse to be fully
Frontier.
A part of it.
and
They still have their
Prairie Rose,
sign.
right?
Yep.
Prairie Rose is still.
Yeah, Prairie Rose too. And you know what I love about that? We don't use this language here, but they would be
They're a
considered
borough.
a borough.
Yeah.
And
We
boroughs
have
are the
boroughs.
coolest.
Yeah. And they have their own garbage and all that stuff.
Police force. And,
I don't know about that.
well, they
They don't have
should
their-
if
they
they're a borough.
They don't have their own fire department. They rely on Fargo for that.
I see.
Yes.
They outsource.
Yep.
I see how
But
it is.
Almost everything is done through Fargo. Like even their post.
Fargo,
is through
you will
Fargo.
do it. We will pay you, but we are not you. Independent. Don't tread on me.
Frontier.
Is it just we just grow
Yeah.
around it and have just been like,
Yeah.
yep, that's just, and then you see the little sign for Frontier and you're like, what is that?
Yep. That's Frontier.
Frontier
Isn't
that way?
isn't that what they call New York? Isn't New York
Yeah, like-
called like the 12 boroughs or whatever it is?
Like Manhattan and all
The
that
five.
stuff.
Yeah, five boroughs.
boroughs.
They're all like 2 million people each.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
gigantic.
That should really be Frontier selling point. Do you want
Yeah.
to live in a borough, but you don't
Do you
want to
wanna
deal with
live in
any
New
New York traffic? Come to North Dakota. Pretty much the same.
When I lived in the Philadelphia area, I thought that was the neatest thing, boroughs, because they were all swallowed up by Philadelphia, but they're their own little communities within the wider community. I thought it was cool.
I could never wrap my head around the fact that what boroughs were. I'm like, but they're not, but they're in New York.
But yeah,
But they're different.
Right.
it's like a city in a city.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, the Vatican?
Do they also have the Swiss protect them?
That's a country within a city.
Yeah.
So, do you want to know how I always remember how many boroughs there are in New York
Oh,
City?
here we go.
How do you
What's
remember?
the joke?
Because of the Beastie Boy album To the Five Boroughs.
Was that one before or after Intergalactic came out?
Oh, I'd have to look. I'm not sure. I don't even remember which album that was on.
Really?
Yeah. It could have been on Intergalactic. I have no idea.
So are you a connoisseur of Beastie Boys?
Oh, I love the Beasties.
Do you listen to their punk stuff too?
The old stuff?
Oh yeah,
No,
yeah. Before Fight for Your Right.
not really. No.
Okay. Or License to Ill.
But on License to Ill, Fight for Your Right to Party is probably my least favorite.
I don't like it at all. In
Okay.
fact, it's the worst song on that whole album, and they would agree with me.
But there's few albums where I can.
Do you see the millennials just
Yeah.
checking their phones?
Who
to-
are the?
I'm
know.
checking your dates.
Who are
You
the
asked the question. I know who they are. Don't.
Yeah.
Who are the Beastie
I would also
Boys?
disagree that Fight for Your Right to Party is a great song.
You like that song?
Oh, yeah.
You need to listen to the rest of the album.
Why would I need to listen
that
to more
was-
of the Beastie Boys when there's so many other better 80s songs?
That was one of the few cassette
Two
tapes.
to Five Boroughs came out after it.
Thank you. I thought so.
That was one of the
That's
few
what I was
cassette tapes
doing.
that I could listen to and then flip over it
cassette
and listen again and flip it over and listen again until all of a sudden the recorder just chewed it up.
Oh yeah.
I only own
Yeah.
one
Is that like a
cassette tape
mini-
in my life.
VHS? I know what a cassette tape is. That was a joke.
But
You're not. It would be a joke if it was funny.
I'm going to mute you. I've said it. You've been warned.
Oh, whatever. What were we going to talk about?
I miss this guy.
Gutenberg
Good to have you back.
We got a couple things happening in the world.
Like what? Hurricane.
Yep.
Yeah.
Hurricane.
right.
I
Did you
actually
go downstairs? Did you see my question?
Downstairs?
Yeah.
What's going on downstairs?
The chalkboard wall.
No.
You went downstairs, you would have seen the chalkboard wall. That's why I asked.
Ah.
Oh, okay. Well,
Oh,
saw a
field trip.
picture
We'll have
of
to
it.
talk about this next one.
I have not been downstairs either. I do have friends and family in Miami, or not in. Well, one is in Miami right now because they evacuated.
Or Orlando.
Fort Myers is where they live.
Okay.
So I've got friends, 3 couples who live in Fort Myers. I have my grandpa's brother and his family all live in Naples, and then my mom's sister and her husband live in a city that I can't pronounce the name, but it's it's north of Tampa.
But they all got out.
No, not all of them. Some of them were like, we're not leaving.
Oh.
my godmother's, one of her daughters is in Naples, and it was like, she was like, I'll be fine. Okay.
You know, part of the problem is that they haven't had a really, really bad one in like 100 years.
This is a really, really bad one.
And they hear that it's bad, and then it
30
gets
years.
weaker as it gets 30. Is that the last bad one?
That was my question of the week on the wall for that.
Oh, is that right? What was it?
word-
Hurricane
Andrew.
Andrew.
Oh,
In
that's right.
92.
That was 30 years ago?
Oh,
In 92.
This one's going to hit Florida hard, but then it's going to hit South Carolina and probably Georgia.
I'm not sure.
But the thinking is that, you know, most people are used to it'll be like a 2 and go down to a tropical storm by the time it actually hits land. And so they're warned every time, you know, get out, and people are just like, well,
Now it's just a couple ticks from a 5.
exactly.
Yeah.
This one's like gaining.
Yeah.
If this
Force.
one goes up to a 5, I think it'll be the second worst to hit.
I heard it's the 4th worst right now.
Really?
That's what's on the wall.
Wow.
Because their options were.
Do you just have factoids about hurricanes hitting Florida?
Everything.
Today, when I was
So-
doing the chalkboard wall.
So this is the 4th worst to hit Florida or to hit the United
Hit
States?
Florida.
Florida,
Okay.
specifically.
Okay.
If it stays a 4, if it goes up, then I think it'll be like 2nd or 3rd.
Have any of you ever been in a hurricane?
No.
No.
If you've survived a blizzard in North Dakota, you'd probably do just fine in a hurricane because you have common sense to like I was in Superstorm Sandy when it was Hurricane Sandy, and then it became Superstorm Sandy. And I was far enough in that we experienced the storm, but it was, for us, it would be like being in a tornado.
So what was the wind?
Still going to pass
like,
on that.
Like 70 miles sustained, 50 miles an hour sustained?
Probably 50. And the problem,
Well, that's like a blizzard then, like
Yeah.
a bad one.
yeah, and the problem in places like that is that they have a lot of trees.
Yeah.
And big trees that will come down. When I was in Charlotte, we got hit by an actual hurricane that came up through Charlotte. Gosh, what was that one called? They thought the worry was that it was going to be like Hurricane Hugo, which was the bad one to hit that area back in the 80s. Like it just wrecked everything.
Yeah.
I watched trees in my backyard tilt and sway for about 6 hours. But aside from that, it wasn't.
Wasn't bad. The wind would be my issue.
Just the wind is the issue.
Yeah.
Unless you're right on the coast, and then you have the issue of the water because it grabs it all and just dumps it on you.
Can we talk about how they name the hurricanes?
Sure.
Alphabetical order.
Yeah. Just why? Who was like, you want to know what? We should give it a name.
Yeah. You got to name it so you know how bad it was.
They've started doing it for blizzards too.
Yes.
Yep,
Yeah.
that's true.
Yeah.
That hasn't really caught on as well yet. Though.
Yeah, no,
No.
because there's just too many of them.
Well,
Yeah.
the funny thing is, like, okay,
Unless you're in Texas.
True.
so there was a really bad blizzard in North Dakota when I lived in Philadelphia. So it was like 10 years ago. And it just cracked me up to listen to on the East Coast, the news is like, everything's falling apart. Like, it's crazy.
Because so many things happen.
Yes, and they called up, I don't know who the governor was at that time, but they called North Dakota, and they're talking to the governor like, so how bad is it? He goes, well, it's pretty bad. Do you call in the National Guard? No. Then people around town have been
Shelves
taking
flowing
care
down.
of it. we seem to have it under control. And the like NBC News guy was like, well, okay. But he didn't know what to do because the governor was so calm.
Yep.
So
that it is funny. The wind is bad, but I also think about if you have a sump pump failure here.
Yeah,
that's like devastating.
Yeah,
and there they've got like water. If you had a bi-level there, it would be coming through your living room window.
Yes, we know what flooding is like here.
Yeah,
and we put in a lot of systems to handle flooding. That's what a hurricane is like in other places because it's so much water so quickly.
Yeah.
And a whole lot of wind that just knocks everything down. And they have a lot more, North Dakota's pretty flat with not a whole lot of things to blow up into the air and throw into houses and stuff aside from cars and people.
Trampolines.
Yes. So.
Gross.
Yeah.
All right. What else is going on?
Do we want to start with the Gutenberg Bible or Iran?
Whichever one you want to start
with.
Well,
the second one's in the news, and I'd like to. I don't know much about that one, so
I have been following along with some pretty upsetting stuff happening across. I guess I don't know the pond in Iran right now, where the morality police are taking it upon themselves to not only punish but also kill women who they've decided are not properly wearing hijabs, which are a part of their law over there. However, the morality police are not a part of any type of government sanctioned, I don't know what you would call it, police force or anything like that. It's more people who have taken it upon themselves to do it. So at this time, it's probably the largest response from Iranian citizens, specifically younger people who are kind of taking back their right to freedoms of religion and, dress and just being a person. And women specifically are choosing to burn their hijabs or shave their heads or go out without it. And at this time, the Iranian government has turned off access to internet for their citizens just because it is being speculated that they're going to start mass executing these people who are essentially how they see it as revolting against their government, but just protesting against what's happening in their area. So
I have a question for you that is just kind of weird in my thought because I don't know how this stuff works. Maybe you do. What about Starlink? What if Elon Musk was just like, we're just going to put a satellite over there?
Probably help.
Would that overcome? Like, I understand Iran like turning off the internet. How do you turn off the internet?
That's the part I'm not sure on.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure theirs is like not like we are all like private companies. Like, what is it? IP. I don't forget but they're all private companies, right? Like Midco could turn it off, but yet you'll still have other companies.
Other choices.
They only have one.
I see.
Yeah,
Iranian internet service.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
And so they've chosen to just turn it off so no one has access to the internet.
Well, thus, Starlink.
I wonder, too, I guess I don't know how it affects, like, I think about, this is probably a really dumbed down version, but like, my home internet isn't working. Okay, whatever. I'll just use, like, my cell phone data for a while.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not really familiar with, like, the landscape or anything of Iran, but, like, when I was in Nicaragua, we were kind of up on a hill, and it would be weird because there'd be certain times of the day when I could go to a certain spot and stand there and get perfect reception, and then other parts of the day I'd go stand there and I got nothing. And so I don't know if different parts of Iran
like how their network is set up that they just are.
It's a little less reliable than what we have here.
Well, at least the word coming out to us is that there's no internet because, look, I mean, it's no surprise to anyone. Iran is a totalitarian regime that mixes a specific form of Islam. I mean, they refer to themselves as, well, I don't know if they refer to themselves, but they're thought of as a theocracy. Their religion and their state are one. And the version of Islam is Shiite Islam, which is the minority of the different there's more than one Islam out there, right? There's Sunni, there's Shiite, there's a couple other smaller ones. But Sunni is by far the dominant version of Islam, which is more moderate in general than Shiite Islam. And they have actually been at war with each other for centuries. So, the makeup of Iran is a very interesting place and probably very much a powder keg where this might be something that changes the entire landscape of what's going on in Iran.
Mm-hmm.
What's interesting for me is that unlike Christianity, which is a religion of belief, Islam is a religion of practice. So think of like, when we say orthodox means right teaching or right belief.
Mm-hmm.
We believe in God the Father, we believe in God the Son, we believe in the Holy Spirit.
Mm-hmm.
That is not of concern for Islam because Islam is a religion of orthopraxy. So you can be the most moderate Muslim who's part of the Democratic Party in the United States, and you can be a member of ISIS or some other just extreme version of Islam, and they're both considered valid under the umbrella of what Islam is because they both practice the same tenets of Islam, even though the beliefs are far, far, far removed from each other. In fact, ISIS would say the moderate Muslim in the United States is a proselyte as well. I mean, it's very convoluted, and most Muslims follow the teachings of their imam, which is usually their religious leader in their local mosque, because not a lot of people can read the Quran in its original language, especially in the West, right? And so the religion in Iran of Iraq, the Shiite follows the teachings of the Ayatollah, who's kind of their head imam guy, and much of it is tied into the laws of the land. Sharia is tied to not just personal right and wrong, because that's what Sharia is for most Muslims. It's not the laws of the land. It's my own personal code of ethics.
Mm-hmm.
That's tied to what I've been taught at the mosque. But for them, it's women have to wear the hijab. Women have less rights. You can't drink alcohol. You can't eat pork. You have to pray 5 times a day. I mean, these are all parts of what the morality police go around sanctioning people on,
Mm-hmm.
and it really is a form of oppression for the average citizen, because just like in other dictatorships, it's encouraged that your children or your other family members turn you in if you're breaking any of these rules. I think of someone who's a native of North Dakota. Have you guys ever heard of Roxana Saberi?
Yep.
So she is a native North Dakotan. She graduated from, I believe, Fargo North. And she's, I think, a CNN reporter or something. But she made the news a couple of years ago because she was in Iran. And she's like, she's Iranian. She's also Japanese, I believe. And she was arrested because she was accused of buying red wine, which on one hand, I'm like, wait a minute, you're in Iran. How can you buy red wine anyway if it's illegal? But apparently she bought red wine, or she was accused of that, and she was in jail for months, if not over a year or two. And there was all this effort to get her out of prison, but she was also an international reporter and stuff. And she was a native. She grew up in North Dakota.
Yep.
That's how I knew she was.
Former Miss North Dakota pageant winner.
Yeah,
That's-
now I know who
yep.
you're talking about.
She was one of my wife's classmates. She lived down the street.
Really?
From her. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, they went to school together. So
Yeah.
that's what I think of when I think of Iran and this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, she wasn't killed or anything like that, but I mean, it was.
Mm-hmm.
It's just one of those things that as I've been reading more about, you feel thankful but also guilty to live in a place that you have that freedom of religion, but then knowing, if you are in Iran and you don't practice if you're not a practicing Muslim or anything like that, you're kind of forced into this.
In most Muslim countries, and this goes back to the history of the empires, like the Ottoman Empire, they called them, I'm blanking on what they're actually called, but ISIS tried to make their own version of this. Their caliphate, a caliphate. In the caliphate, the practice has always been that if you are Muslim, you have most rights if you're a man. If you're a Christian or a Jew or some other religion, depending on the ruling class, usually you could continue to live and not be persecuted as long as you paid basically like a tax. Mm-hmm. That's been the practice for years up until the fall of the Ottoman Empire at the beginning of the 20th century. Then as the old empires of the caliphates have fragmented, things have become much more aggressive against unbelievers. You had ISIS that was, they were chopping people's heads off for claiming Christ. I don't know what the law is for Christians in Iran, if there's the same kind of, if you're tolerated or you have to pay a tax or something like that. But I'm pretty sure that it's secondhand status. I know for a fact that's the case in places like Pakistan, because I had a professor who was a Christian there who was basically treated with second-class status because he converted from Islam to Christianity. So we really have no idea. In other parts of the world, being a Christian, or being the non-dominant, even in India, being the non-dominant religion, there's persecution. Yeah. We don't know what persecution is. We talk about persecution like, oh, you were mean to me. You disagreed. You disagreed with my truth.
Yeah.
Or, whatever it may be. We have no idea. We have no idea what persecution looks like.
Absolutely.
Sorry.
No, because there are videos where I get really mad when I watch them because they'll act like it. Like it's so hard to be a Christian in the U.S. and I understand that, but it's really not compared to other places where you literally risk your life for it.
Mm-hmm. Our biggest danger is being embarrassed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They made fun of me.
Yeah. Or if you think about, the biggest sacrifice I'm going to have to make is I can't sleep in on Sunday.
Right.
Ugh.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Yeah. All right.
We're at 27 minutes.
27.
Well, it's going to be 28 by the time we're done.
Okay.
Talking about the time.
Talking about the Do we have any more on this topic?
I did you have more that you want to share? I mean, I'm going to go read up on this because I don't know much about the story. I just saw that these things are happening.
No, that was
it's
just
in response to one woman, right?
She was an activist who she was 22 years old, and her family was told that she was going to be taken to a basically jail, and instead they on the way there they beat her to death. Just because they determined that she was not wearing it correctly.
Because they could,
Yep.
is essentially the reason.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. That's absolutely right. Because they could.
Yep.
That's what tyrants do.
Yeah. Just sad days in
It's just
the world
weird.
right now.
Yeah.
That things like that can happen and nobody I don't know.
Come, Lord Jesus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, do you want to keep going, or do you want to call this one good for this evening?
Let's cover the other one.
Okay.
The Leafs.
Yeah.
This was yours too.
All right. So on a little bit lighter note, I saw a TikTok and it made me wonder because they can't put anything on TikTok that isn't true.
You have to wonder with TikTok because they don't put anything on long enough to really get a clear, concise truth. It's
Exactly.
So I saw this man who is some type of book collector, and somebody had asked him a question, what's the oldest book in your collection? He said, well,
It's not a book.
It's not a book. I have a leaf. And he has a single page of the Gutenberg Bible, which from Pastor DJ Lura and the late great Pastor Paul Cross.
He's not late.
He's not dead yet.
He's sure
Like
great.
he's not here.
Paul, I apologize.
And I mean this in the kindest way, just to be completely precise. the Reverend Dr. Cross is no longer pastor.
Oh, sorry. The Reverend Doctor.
Pastor is only when you're serving a congregation.
Paul, I apologize.
So we just call
again.
him Doctor now?
I'm sure.
No, it's Dr. Cross.
Yep. PC.
Reverend Dr. Cross.
Going right for the nickname. PC. We talked a lot about the Gutenberg Bible as the Church of Atonement and in staff and whatnot. So I was just very confused when he was talking about how he owns this, because my mind immediately went to, what if you spent all that money, you got like kind of a crappy Bible verse? I don't know if you can say that, but like, what if you don't get a full chapter, you get a middle of a story? How does this work? And I thought, who's going to know that?
Like,
DJ.
Did they break the book apart?
Like,
you just were like, look at this whole Gutenberg. You want to know what we should do? Pull
Rip
it
it
apart and sell the pages for millions.
Yeah. Like, would you get more of it as a whole? Like, would you be able to charge
still
more
buy a
whole or
whole one?
separate?
Like, can collectors buy a whole one? Like, I know there's not a lot of them,
All
so
right.
like they're all.
There's a lot of questions here.
Let's back up a second. What is the Gutenberg Bible, and why do people want to spend millions of dollars on a fragmented piece?
What a great question, Ryan. Let's start there.
Step one.
Right now I'm looking up like the worst Bible verses, just imagining which one.
So you don't want.
So back in the days of Martin Luther, it was the end of the Dark Ages, kids.
Was
Back
the
when
best
they-
of times.
It was the worst.
No,
of times.
there was no best of times in the Dark Ages.
It was all worst
all
time.
worst.
It was the worst of times and worster of times.
The worster.
And back in those days, if you wanted to record something like a book, you had to write it out by hand.
Okay.
And the book was still bound like a book, because that was something new that happened closer to the start of the New Testament. But you had to write it all by hand, and that's
Okay.
just how it was done. Well, along came this guy named Gutenberg, and he somehow
Steve? Was it Steve?
it wasn't Steve Gutenberg. I think it was. What's his name? You gotta read
Jeff.
stuff.
We actually wouldn't need to know his first name if it wasn't for you.
Yep.
Ryan.
I know. Darn it.
Do you know who Steve Gutenberg is?
I was
No.
right.
No.
It's John Gutenberg, or as they say, Johann back in the day. You know who Steve Gutenberg is?
Should I?
Do you guys know the Police Academy?
No.
Oh wow,
Is that the...
Ryan, we're
the
so
movie?
I'm
old.
thinking of
That's-
Reno 911.
No, that's not it.
It's a.
Motormouth Jones. You know him?
The last thing I searched was Coolio, if that just doesn't tell you that we've been podcasting. Police Academy.
While you're figuring that out, let me get this back on track. It's not Steve Gutenberg from Police Academy fame. It's Johann Gutenberg, who developed the printing press. And so
The sad thing is that some people will get this and find this funny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey,
there's people
here's-
just getting done laughing right now.
Here's something for me to bring in the younger group.
bring in the kids.
Kim
All right.
Cattrall is in it. She was in Sex and the City.
Yep.
There we go. Look at that. That's probably her
She
start.
was in Police Academy.
I don't know how many young kids even know who Kim
I
Cattrall
was
is.
gonna
To be
say,
honest.
like, you're actually
Sorry,
pushing
I'm-
it, sir.
I think 20 somethings.
You're dating
Yeah.
yourself.
Getting the
Okay.
millennials, not the Gen Zs.
Oh.
She is Gen Z.
Okay. Johann.
Yes, you are.
So Johann Gutenberg figured out how to basically print mass letters and
The printing press.
through the printing press. And so what is one of the things that was printed early on was the Johann Gutenberg Bible.
Okay.
And so that allowed for the word of God to be mass produced.
And this was in German, I assume.
Well, with a name like Gutenberg, yeah, I think that's
Johann Gutenberg. That sounds rather.
yeah.
I was just assuming.
Yeah, mass movable metal type in Europe, and so this was actually a genius invention that really caused the possibility for the Reformation to even happen, to move us out of the Middle Ages and into the Renaissance, because that's what happened during the time of the Lutheran Reformation, and because of the Gutenberg. Because of Gutenberg and the printing press, Luther was able to write the Bible in the language of the people, which became the Lutheran Bible, the Lutheran New Testament, in German. But the Gutenberg Bible, I believe, was it was originally translated in the Latin Vulgate, so it was just in Latin. So if you didn't know how to read Latin, you couldn't read it, and really it was against the law of the church for anyone who wasn't a priest to not be reading scripture. That's why it was in Latin.
So not in German.
Not in German. Yeah, it was in Latin, but that's
international language.
So it wouldn't matter if you got a terrible verse, Sarah. You can't read it anyways.
yes. But what would be one of those terrible verses? Let's hear. Here's the number one that was picked. From Samuel 6:19. God himself will kill tens of thousands if it pleases him.
That'd be bad.
Yep.
Well,
And he smote the men of Beth Shemesh because they had looked into the ark of the Lord. Even he smote of the people 50,000 and 70 men. 50,070.
smote's a pretty cool word.
Isn't that a good one?
Well,
smote.
The
You
Gutenberg,
smote. Don't you smote steaks or smote pork and
Not as much since
you smoke it. You don't smite it.
Since I ruptured my art chilies, I haven't been out there as much as I'd like to be. But I'm working my way back in.
Freezer's
Okay,
gonna be
all
too
right.
cold.
Well,
No, I do it all winter long.
oh man,
Do you move it inside or do you do it outside?
Out on the deck.
Okay.
Yeah.
bundle up.
Okay, so we've got this Gutenberg Bible that was
yes.
written in Latin, a mass printing press by Johann Gutenberg.
Yes.
Can I ask a quick follow-up question?
Johannes.
Yeah.
So actually, my question of what if you get a crappy Bible verse would be kind of null because there wasn't I couldn't special request John 3:16 because at this time it wasn't broken up into like the chapters and verses.
So
Correct. Well, that's
Sort of.
during the time of Luther, the scriptures would have been split up into chapters, but not verses.
Oh, okay.
okay. So where did they get all these pieces? Back to Dana's question about who decided how to carve it up. Like, what if you just and did you pay more for a full page, or if somebody just notched out a little salah for you? Was that like, I'll give you 50 cents for a salah?
How do you get antiquities? You don't go unless you're going over to grandma's antique store and getting furniture that was made in the 20th century.
Mm-hmm.
I got this jacket for free.
Or that jacket for free.
If I had known, I'd have asked for like $60.
When you're talking about antiquities that are incredibly valuable, it's going through an auction house.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And so what you get are, look, you're talking about Bibles that were printed 500 years ago.
Most of them aren't whole anymore anyways.
I'm not talking about now. Like if you wanted to get one now, like how did it become just leaves?
That's the point that I'm getting at. So you have decay over time, and you also have World War II, World War I,
Sure.
all other kinds of wars that decimated, Germany, if you want to start at that location, but all of Europe.
Yeah.
That's where these would have been disseminated out more than anything else. And so just like the Dead Sea Scrolls or other ancient antiquities going back thousands of years, we have fragments that are left over. It could be someone got their hands on a Gutenberg Bible 100 years ago and thought, I'm going to make me some scratch and split it all up.
Sure.
But what we have today would be fragments, if not an entire collection. I'm sure there are a full collection of the Gutenberg Bible. I just don't know how many.
So but obviously this was in someone's possession whole at one time.
point,
It wasn't like the Dead Sea Scrolls where all of a sudden they found this thing in a cave somewhere.
Right.
A jar.
Right. What I can tell you is what we have, because there's a list of it on Wikipedia. You know how good
Most
they are.
trusty source.
There's 27 complete copies in Austria or Austrian. No, Austria. And there's a bunch of incomplete copies in different countries. There's 15 complete copies in France. Yeah. So
there are whole ones out there.
yeah, there's like 13 in Germany.
But these are probably the ones that were already broken or missing pages, and they were just like, we'll just start.
Yeah, or some collector had a copy, had a leaf, and decided to sell it, and that's how that guy got it.
Where'd the cover go?
That's what Ryan wants. He wants the cover.
Somewhere there's a very mad librarian wanting to talk to somebody about how you treat books.
Who got the maps?
The dedication day.
I'm just imagining this being the next National Treasure movie, and Nicolas
Yes.
Cage just has the cover, and he goes, I'm going to get the rest of this Gutenberg Bible.
Where's the maps?
Anywho,
Okay.
so that's how
Interesting.
I got it. And so, the money you pay is based on, you might be like, I want a good verse.
So now
this one's a little
I'll
not
put
as
$10
good.
on Habakkuk 2:4, but I'm holding out for John 3:16.
so that
50 staying in my pocket until that one rolls out.
I'm not putting the paddle up until I see a good one.
so my question sounded like a joke, but I would like how much are people paying for this, and are you paying more? Like if you get a good full size
Yeah,
page, or
This
if you
guy,
get
let me find the TikTok quick. I'm pretty sure
The
this guy had a full
TikTok.
page. I sent it to Dana, and I think he said he paid like $5,000 for
Yeah.
it.
for how much of a page?
A full page.
A full page.
Unfortunately, this isn't going to be going to like Jamestown auctioneers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're not gonna-
Unfortunately, this would
Right.
be like an auction house in New York or
Yeah.
Okay.
London.
And then they're like, you have to be background checked and
yeah, they'd be aiming for
Buy a-
high end. They'd have
buy
to
a
see your bank
pass in the
account.
Oh, okay.
Check your bank account to make sure you got the
That you, make sure you're not just raising your paddle for the fun
That's
of it.
right. That you got the doubloons to pay for this
Yeah.
because it's going to cost doubloons.
Huh. Very interesting.
Yep.
I just watched the Uncharted movie last
So
night.
good.
I need to see that. I've heard it's
They
really
were
good.
at an auction house, so that's what I'm thinking of now.
I watch a lot of documentaries.
Yes, you do.
I do, and I've watched some really good ones lately. I watched the Bling Ring just recently.
It's on my list.
I've seen the movie.
No, the movie is
The movie's terrible.
incorrect. Not only is it probably I haven't seen it, but
I watched a documentary. I watched Cobra Kai season 5. It's the best season yet.
I also and we could talk about this one sometime. I think this would be fun. I watched Sins of Our Mother
Yes.
on Netflix.
Speaking of,
Those stories just turn my stomach.
Isn't it terrible?
I'm a pass.
Yeah, it's not a.
Have you seen it?
yes, and I've listened to the documentaries, and I have so many questions.
Yeah, it's
I
crazy.
don't have any questions.
Was the guy
Well, we can talk about that. One's like he was a cult leader.
Well, right? And he was writing his own Bible, right?
Yeah.
I also, this always comes up to me whenever I listen to cult things because I genuinely sometimes feel bad for the like LDS Mormons.
Yeah.
Because so many cults end up coming off of it and it gives them such a bad rep. And it's like, they just want to worship God and do whatever they're doing.
I would point out, and it's funny, kind of coming full circle here. We were talking about Islam earlier, right?
Yeah.
You could make the argument that the LDS Church is also a religion of orthopraxy over orthodoxy because they have several official doctrines that the average Mormon does not know about or believe in. I had many Mormon friends growing up in the Pacific Northwest. They believed in Jesus just like me. And a lot of the other things were kind of like, Lutherans, they sing a liturgy. Mormons, they have their rituals that they do. That's how they would look at it. So
Yeah, those two documentaries were really, really good. But the Sins of Our Mother was like, man, that's crazy.
well, and I guess my
What
point
is
is that
that?
the breakoffs from the LDS Church do not follow the hierarchy that they have in place because it is so.
Oh wait, is it okay? I got it.
It is based on what they do and not what they believe.
Well, so this is Dana was asking what it is, or do you know now?
I think I got it.
Oh, okay. It was the lady.
Lori
Warren.
Fallow,
Warren.
Chad Daybell. No.
No?
That's another thing.
Oh, okay. No, I
That's
don't know where we
Keep
are.
Sweet and Pray.
I remember when this was in the news, and what blew me about it when it was in the news, I'm like, wait, she can just not tell them where her kids are?
Yeah.
Wait.
Yeah.
Oh,
It's that one. It's the one who
that
took her
one.
kids to Hawaii.
Yeah.
And
She still hasn't told them where the kids are, and I think they found the remains of the kids.
They did, yeah.
on his
Yeah.
property.
The kids are fine. They're fine.
Yeah. They're with their friend.
That's what she keeps saying. They're fine.
Fine. Kids are fine.
Like,
see, this is why I don't do.
this is also
Do you have work to do in the basement after we're done with the podcast?
I don't.
so it's okay if I bring this up then. I have also finished the new Jeffrey Dahmer series.
On Netflix?
Yeah.
Was it good?
It's
That's
hard.
not a documentary though, right?
It's a biopic about. Oh, I mean, it's kind of a documentary. He's the only serial killer who's like had no problem chit chatting about everything he did.
Sure.
And what I want to know is, do they discuss his faith.
They do. They show in the spoiler alert. They show in the last episode that he's baptized, and this is where I wanted to ask. I need to look to see how true it is, or how much they fluffed it up.
Time. This is going to be a cliffhanger here.
Is they show him getting baptized, and he was baptized the same day that John Wayne Gacy was killed.
Put to death?
That's put to death. And then it shows that the man who killed him in jail was also a man who has found very deep faith in jail or in prison, and said that he was commanded by God to do this. So I need to look into more to see how true that is and how that plays into things. But we might need to talk about that more on the next episode.
Dana's going to be gone.
We're going to have to come back. I'll have to watch that in the meantime.
Yep.
Cliffhanger.
Yeah.
It's a tough watch. Just be careful.
That's your homework,
if you're
listeners.
watching it.
Go watch Cobra Kai season 5.
Yeah, watch that. Not
Do that
Jeffrey Dahmer unless you have a very strong stomach.
Okay. Yeah.
And a very tough heart.
I was, how old were we? About 12, 13 when the whole Jeffrey Dahmer thing was going on?
Yeah, we were middle
They
school.
were hauling out the vats out of his apartment and stuff like that. That was all right on the news.
Yeah.
Slopping it down the stairs on the way out of the apartment.
You can stop. I know you're doing it because I don't feel great.
Ryan, why don't you wrap us up? Wrap this up. Pray us out here.
Who's praying us out of here?
You got it.
I am?
Yep.
All right.
Does he?
Yep.
Like he
Just don't say
struggles.
slopping us out of here.
Go ahead.
Sorry.
Go ahead, Dana.
Dana just prayed the other day. She said she prayed for me.
Well,
I'm going to get a postcard in the mail about it.
That's true. I was there.
I did that.
I saw it with my own eyes.
That's funny. All right. Heavenly Father, thank you for this time, Lord. God, I thank you for atonement and the work that they continue to do. I thank you for the staff, and I know that they're in a busy time that's just going to keep getting busier as we continue on. And so, Lord, I pray for blessings on them. God, I pray for the people of Iran. I pray for the women there, for the people who are being affected by what's going on over there, Lord. Pray for softened hearts, not just in Iran, but all over the world, Lord. I pray for blessings of softened hearts and changed hearts, and people looking toward you, Lord. And God, again, I thank you for the blessings that we have here to live in a country where we can have these discussions and know that we are not going to be persecuted in the streets for them. So, Lord, I thank you again. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Okay, so I totally botched this last time. Does somebody else want to take?
No, you got it.
Okay.
Give it a try.
All right. Thank you for being here with us today. If you enjoyed this episode of that podcast, you should let a friend know. What's the matter?
My ear's bleeding now.
Oh, no. So you can go to YouTube. I don't know if you knew this or not, but you can go to YouTube and you can click that, hit the notification bell. Mm-hmm. And you can subscribe to the Atonement Fargo channel, and you will have access to a library at this point.
Yeah.
A library of past worship services, past episodes of that podcast, past Bible studies. You can still go back and get the Revelation Bible study.
Really?
Way back when. You might have to scroll a ways, but you can find it.
You know, you can even find some like TikTok compilations from way back.
Oh, yeah.
If you want to giggle at something.
A library. And so you can find that on YouTube. You can also find that podcast anywhere you find your podcasts. I won't say favorite because this one should be your favorite.
Yeah.
And so you can go to Spotify or Google Podcasts or Apple Podcasts, Castbox, wherever you find them. And make sure you get subscribed so that you get them as soon as they come out. In the meantime, this Sunday at 9 a.m., there will be a tradition service live and a modern service at 10 o'clock live on YouTube, atonement.live or atonementfargo.org. So,
10:30.
what did I say?
You said 10 o'clock.
You can be there at 10 a.m. There's going to be some really cool people doing a pre-show and some announcements going on, so you can learn more
That's
then.
not till 10:20, though. I botched it. I thought I had it.
There will be ice cream. I mean,
Ice cream.
well, you'll have missed it by the time this one came out. Sorry.
I think this next Sunday, which people won't know because this will come out after the Sunday happens, but it's going to be Sarah DeYoung and me on the pre-show.
Really?
No,
Out of
it's
town.
not. No,
You're out of
it's not.
town?
Yeah.
Oh, who am I
she's-
doing it with?
Who's pre-showing
I
with
said
you?
I would do it, and they told me it was going to be Sarah.
Who's pre-showing with you?
I don't know. I'll have to find out. Dana Mashevsky.
That means she'd have to get up in the morning.
That's the thing. I can do 10:30 maybe.
Unfortunately for you, I'm going to be watching the Dr. Harold E. Salem.
Hey, listen, I'm not going to try to rope you back in. You just got out. Every time I get
What
up,
are you talking about?
Every time I get up, they pull me back in.
Come back next Wednesday.
hey, you came here of your own choice. I didn't make you come here.
All right, I said it all. 9, 10:30, atonement.live, atonementfargo.org, or YouTube. You can worship with us this Sunday. So for Pastor DJ Lorette, Sarah DeYoung, and Dana Mashevsky, I'm Ryan Janke. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time for another riveting episode of That Podcast. Did you have to turn it up the whole way?
That was quieter than you've ever said riveting.
No.
Wrong.